Breaking news, you're looking at video of one of the last times Oscar winner Gene Hackman, a known recluse in recent years, was seen in public.
Much of the investigation is happening just up this road behind gates and a guard in an affluent neighborhood where homes are separated by acres of land. That's where Hackman and his wife chose to live, decidedly secluded.
It's the kind of news that stops you in your tracks. Gene Hackman, the iconic two-time Academy Award-winning actor, and his wife, Betsy Orokowa, have been discovered under circumstances so perplexing they've left even seasoned investigators scratching their heads. For fans of the Hollywood legend, the shock is immeasurable. How could this happen to one of the most formidable actors of the 20th century, a man who seemed larger than life even in his retirement? The details, as they're slowly emerging, paint a picture that's as puzzling as it is tragic.
And here in Santa Fe, Sheriff's Department officials here working behind me have yet another high-profile case on their hands. Aaron, you and I covered at length the Alec Baldwin case, that fatal shooting on the set of the movie Rust. This is the same investigative team that worked that case.
Let's take a moment to reflect on Gene Hackman's extraordinary legacy before diving into the unsettling mystery surrounding his final days. Here's a man who wasn't just an actor but a force of nature. Hackman didn't just play characters, he was them, and he had the rare ability to lose himself entirely in a role, transforming into the stubborn, relentless detective Popey Doyle in The French Connection or the cunning, sharp-tongued Lex Luthor in Superman. His career was a masterclass in versatility spanning over 4 decades of unforgettable performances, yet Hackman was never the type to chase stardom. Fame seemed almost incidental to him, a byproduct of his dedication to the craft of acting.
Well, this week, our community lost a giant, and I lost a dear friend, Gene Hackman.
Born on 1930, in San Bernardino, California, Hackman's early years were far from glamorous. His father abandoned the family when Gene was just a teenager, an event that left a mark on him for the rest of his life. "I remember the day my dad drove away like it was yesterday," he once shared in an interview. "He looked at me through the car window, gave me a small wave, and that was it. I knew he wasn't coming back that moment." Gene later said it might have been the spark that ignited his desire to become an actor. He was drawn to storytelling and exploring the human experience in all its complexity, but success.
I had the pleasure of working alongside Gene on 2 films, Unforgiven and Under Suspicion. And like everyone who's ever shared a scene with him, I learned he was a generous performer and a man whose gifts elevated everyone's work.
Path to stardom was riddled with rejection. After serving in the Marine Corps, he made his way to the Pasadena Playhouse in California to study acting. It was there that he met Dustin Hoffman, and the 2 aspiring actors became fast friends, but their instructors weren't exactly encouraging. Hackman and Hoffman were infamously voted least likely to succeed, a label Gene would wear as a badge of honor in later years, and deterred, he moved to New York City, taking on odd jobs and hustling for roles. He shared a small apartment with Hoffman and another future legend, Robert Fall. Imagine that trio, 3 young, hungry actors, all destined for greatness, pounding the pavement together in one.
He received 2 Oscars, but more importantly, he won the hearts of film lovers all over the world. Gene always said, "I don't think about legacy. I just hope people remember me as someone who tried to do good work."
Gene's big break came in 1967 when he was cast as Buck Barrow and Bonnie and Clyde. The role earned him his first Academy Award nomination and put him on Hollywood's radar. Suddenly, the man who had been dismissed as too ordinary and too rough around the edges was being hailed as one of the most exciting actors of his generation. But Hackman wasn't interested in being pigeonholed. He followed up Bonnie and Clyde with a string of roles that showcased his incredible range in The French Connection. 1971, he delivered a gritty powerhouse performance as Detective Popey Doyle, a role that won him his first Oscar. Then in The Conversation 1974, he played a surveillance expert consumed by paranoia, a haunting portrayal that critics still cite as one of his finest, and who could forget his turn as Lex Luthor in Superman 1978. Hackman.
So I think I speak for us all when I say, Gene, you'll be remembered for that and for so much more. Rest in peace, my friend.
By the 986, Hackman was a Bonaire star, Pepper star. He gave one of his most memorable performances in Hoosiers, 1986, playing a disgraced basketball coach seeking redemption. The film became a classic, and Hackman's portrayal was hailed as deeply moving in Mississippi. Burning 1981, he tackled the role of an FBI agent investigating civil rights abuses in the South, earning yet another Oscar nomination. The Nines brought even more acclaim, including his second Academy Award for Unforgiven 1992 Clint Eastwood's revisionist western, in which Hackman played the ruthless Sheriff Little Bill Daggett. The role was a masterclass in menace, and Hackman's performance was chillingly unforgettable. As the years went on, Hackman continued to deliver standout performances, from the high-stakes tension of Crimson Tide 1995 to the quirky brilliance of the Royal Tenenbaums 2001, but in 2004, after starring in the comedy Welcome to Mooseport, Hackman made the surprising decision to retire from acting. While many fans hoped he might return for one last role, Hackman was resolute. He had nothing left to prove. "The business for me is very stressful," he explained in an interview. "The compromises you have to make in films are just part of the beast, and it had gotten to a point where I just didn't feel like I wanted to do it anymore." Hackman retreated from the spotlight, settling into a quiet life in Santa Fe, New Mexico with his wife Betsy Orokowa. He took up writing, penning several historical novels, and seemed content to let his legacy speak for itself. For years, fans caught only rare glimpses of
There was a dog who was alive in the house, and a dog also that belonged to them who was outside the house.
Right, but the door being ajar means, what Judy describes, which is they could have been there 10 days or 2 weeks, meant that the dogs could have had access to come in and out of that doorway. They might have had access to food and to water.
And then came the news no one was prepared for. On a seemingly ordinary day, authorities arrived at Hackman's Santa Fe home to find a scene that defied explanation. The 95-year-old actor was discovered in a separate room from his wife, Betsy, who was found near a tipped-over space heater and scattered prescription pills. One of their dogs was found lifeless in a nearby closet, while 2 others roamed the property unharmed. The front door of the house was left open, yet there were no signs of ing as they are.
As Hollywood gets ready to honor its best at the Academy Awards this weekend, there are still unanswered questions about the of 2-time Oscar winner Gene Hackman and his wife. The couple was found this week in their New Mexico home. On Friday, investigators ruled out carbon monoxide poisoning and revealed other clues that may lead them to determine what did happen.
The public's reaction has been a mix of grief and bewilderment. How could this happen to someone like Gene Hackman, a man who seemed so indomitable, so full of life? Even in his later years, tributes poured in from Hollywood and beyond. Directors like Francis Ford Coppola and actors like Viola Davis and Antonio Banderas shared heartfelt messages praising Hackman's unparalleled talent and his ability to bring authenticity to every role. Fans took to social media to express their sorrow and admiration, revisiting his films and reflecting on the impact he had on cinema. But even as the world mourned, the questions lingered. What really happened inside that home? Was it a tragic accident, a medical emergency, or something else entirely? The investigation is ongoing, and the lack of clear answers has only deepened the mystery for now. All we can do is celebrate the extraordinary life and career of Gene Hackman, a man who gave us so many unforgettable moments on screen and left us with a legacy that will endure for generations. And as we remember his remarkable journey.
So as well known as Gene Hackman was, neighbors tell us that he and his wife led intensely private lives here in Santa Fe, their longtime home. And while we've been learning more about this case, there is still so much we don't know.
The investigation into the mysterious circumstances surrounding Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Orokowa's passing has left everyone with more questions than answers. Picture this, a secluded legends, now shrouded in a fog of uncertainty. The details emerging from their residence paint a scene straight out of a thriller, one that has captivated not only the public but also law enforcement, who are still trying to piece together what really unfolded behind those walls.
Have investigators been able to get into the obtained cell phones?
Not at this time. We have them in our possession. We'll be analyzing cell phone data, phone calls, text messages, events, photos in the cell phone to try to piece a timeline together.
First, let's talk about the scene itself. The home, nestled in the quiet hills of Santa Fe, was where Gene and Betsy had lived a tranquil life far from the spotlight. This wasn't the kind of place where you'd expect anything unusual to happen. Yet when first responders entered the house, they were met with perplexing details and tales that seemed almost too bizarre to believe. Gene was discovered fully dressed in a side room near the kitchen, his cane lying nearby as if he had been walking and suddenly collapsed. Betsy was found in the bathroom near a tipped-over space heater in scattered prescription pills, and then there was the dog, a loyal German shepherd found lifeless in a closet, adding to the eerie nature of the scene. 2 other dogs were roaming the property, seemingly unharmed. The front door of the house was left ajar, but there were no signs of forced entry, no shattered windows, no evidence of a break-in. It's as though the house itself was
On Wednesday, February 26, 2025, at approximately 1:45 p.m., Santa Fe County Sheriff's deputies were dispatched to 1425 Old Sunset Trail, where Gene Hackman, 95, and his wife Betsy Arakawa, 65, and a dog were found deceased.
Authorities initially ruled out carbon monoxide poisoning, a theory that seemed plausible given the president of the space heater tests confirmed there was no toxic gas leak in the home, leading investigators scrambling to find other explanations. Speculation has run rampant. Could Betsy have tripped and fallen in the bathroom, causing the heater to topple over? And if so, what led to Gene's sudden collapse in another room? The scattered pills near Betsy raised questions about whether medication might have played a role, but toxicology results are still pending, leaving that possibility open-ended. As for the deceased dog, its location in the closet adds another layer of history. Why was it there? Did it seek shelter? Or was it placed there deliberately? And how did the 2 remaining dogs survive untouched for what authorities believe could have...
Deputies arrived and gained access to the residence where they observed Mrs. Arakawa deceased. They continued the search of their home and located Mr. Hackman in a separate area of the residence, also deceased. A German shepherd was also found deceased, and 2 other dogs who appeared healthy were located on the property.
The timeline of events adds yet another twist. Based on data retrieved from Gene's pacemaker, investigators believe his final moments occurred on February 17th, 9 days before their bodies were discovered. This revelation raises even more questions. If Gene passed on the 17th, when did Betsy's final moments occur? Did she succumb at the same time, or did she outlast him only to face her own sudden and tragic end? The decomposition of their bodies suggests a lapse of time, but the exact sequence of events remains unclear, adding to the enigma. Neighbors and close friends reported no signs of distress in the days leading up to the discovery. Jesse Kessler, a contractor and longtime friend of the couple, was the one to alert authorities after finding the bodies. In his emotional 911 call, he described seeing Betsy through a bathroom window, lying unresponsive on the floor. His voice cracked as he pleaded, "Please send somebody really quick."
Due to the unusual circumstances of 2 decedents in the residence, there was a concern for scene safety. Santa Fe City fire personnel and the New Mexico Gas Company were requested to the scene to test for carbon monoxide or other foreign elements. The scene was deemed safe, and approximately 9:30 p.m., a search warrant was issued and executed on the resident.
Adding to the complexity of the timeline is the question of why no one noticed anything amiss sooner. Neighbors described the couple as private, but friendly, often keeping to themselves at their secluded estate. One neighbor, who wished to remain anonymous, shared that it wasn't unusual to go weeks without seeing Gene or Betsy, as they valued their quiet life away from the public eye. They were the kind of people who didn't like to be fussed over, the neighbor explained. Yet the long gap between their assumed final moments and their discovery has left locals feeling uneasy. Why didn't anyone check on them earlier? Could calls or messages have gone unanswered? And if so, who tried to reach out? The couple's reclusive lifestyle has also raised questions about whether they had any outstanding health concerns that might have contributed to this tragedy. Gene, at 95, was reportedly in good spirits during his last public outing, often seen accompanied by Betsy, who many described as his rock. Betsy was known to be meticulous about Gene's health, even restricting social interactions during the pandemic to protect him. Yet friends close to Betsy revealed she had recently expressed mild concerns about her own well-being, though nothing seemed serious enough to hint
of legendary actor Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa. The couple, along with their dog, found in their New Mexico home this week by a maintenance worker. Listen, this is part of the 911.
Another curious detail is the lack of any significant outside interference in their daily lives. Jesse Kessler, their trusted contractor and friend, mentioned that Gann occasionally lent a hand on small projects around the house even at his advanced age. Kessler described him as sharp as ever. Gene loved to keep busy, even if it was just painting a fence or fixing something small. Yet Kessler admitted he hadn't seen them in person for at least 2 weeks before his shocking discovery, relying instead on brief text exchanges with Betsy. Could this period of isolation have masked the early signs of trouble? Investigators are now reviewing these communications to uncover any potential clues. The investigation has also turned up intriguing clues that could provide answers or perhaps deepen the mystery. A search warrant revealed that authorities collected several items from the home, including prescription bottles, cell phones, and even a handwritten planner. Could this planner hold details about their final days? Investigators are reportedly combing through text messages, phone call logs, and recent appointments to piece together a clearer picture. One detail that has sparked intense curiosity is the absence of any signs of a struggle. The house was reportedly in pristine condition with no overturned furniture, broken glass, or evidence of a violent encounter. This has led some to wonder whether the couple's passing was the result of a tragic set of circumstances rather than foul play. But then there's the open front door, a detail that feels almost cinematic in its ominous simplicity. Was it left open?
The reason the digital information from both of their cell phones is so important, Natasha, is because cell phones can track movement. And that's what they are going to look into. When did those cell phones cease not only to be used, but cease to move?
As the investigation continues, the world has been left grappling with the unsettling nature of this case. For fans of Gene Hackman, it feels almost surreal to see his name attached to such a mysterious narrative. This was a man who spent his life captivating audiences with his ability to embody complex characters, from the relentless detective Papy Doyle to the cunning Lex Luthor. Now the story of his own final days has become a puzzle that no one seems able to solve. Hollywood has been rocked by the news. Tributes have poured in from across the industry, with friends, colleagues, and admirers reflecting on Hackman's incredible career and the impact he had on cinema. Director Francis Ford Coppola spoke of Hackman as a true master of his art, while Viola Davis praised his ability to make every performance feel deeply authentic, while fans and colleagues celebrate Hackman's legacy. The public fascination with the mystery of his passing shows no signs of waning. True crime enthusiasts and amateur sleuths have taken to social media to share their theories. Dissecting every known detail in search of answers, some have speculated about the role of the prescription pills found near Betsy, wondering whether they could have triggered a medical emergency. Others have focused on the open door, questioning whether it might suggest the involvement of a third party. And then there's the question of the dogs, a detail that has sparked endless debate. How did two of them survive while the third perished?
What was it like being on the set with Gene Hackman?
Well, Gene, people ask all the time, who's the best actor, who's the biggest star, who's the blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. The line's long for the great actors I've been able to work with, really is. But I would say probably Gene was the best actor that I'd ever worked with.
As investigators work to untangle this web of mysteries, one thing is certain. The story of Gene Hackman's final days is far from over. The pending results of the autopsies and toxicology reports could provide critical insights, but until then the case remains suspended in a state of uncertainty. For now, all we can do is wait and remember the man whose talent and charisma lit up the silk screen for decades. Man might be gone, but his legacy lives on in the roles that made him an icon, the stories he brought to life, and the countless fans who continue to be inspired by his work. But here's the question that lingers: will we ever truly know what happened, or will this case remain one of Hollywood's most baffling unsolved mysteries? Extraordinary life and career of a man who gave us so much. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and as always, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for updates on this story as it unfolds.